Black Maid Marries homeless man, guests laugh but his dark secret leaves everyone speechless. The laughter echoed through the grand hall, a piercing sound that shattered the air like glass. It should have been a day of love, of joy. Yet, the brightly colored balloons and white lace draped everywhere didn't hide the whispers that hovered like a dark cloud above the celebration. Everyone was gathered for the wedding of Mary, the beloved maid, to James, a man who had spent years living on the streets. But something about James had always troubled the guests, a mystery that clung to him like the tattered clothes on his back. How did he win her heart? What secrets lay hidden beneath that charming smile? As Mary walked down the aisle, the sunlight glinted off her white gown, illuminating her radiant face, but the guests barely noticed. They were too busy casting skeptical glances at James. Could a man with no home truly love her? Or was he just seeking a way out of his struggles? Gasps rippled through the crowd when the pastor asked if anyone objected. This was it, the moment everyone had waited for. Some couldn't hold back their laughter, thinking it a joke. But then came the first strange element, a loud crash. A waiter stumbled, dropping an entire tray of glasses that shattered like the tension in the room. The crowd fell silent. Everyone turned to look at James, whose face had blanched. An unsettling wave passed through him, like he was wrestling with some internal storm. Did he know the waiter? Was he somehow linked to the chaos about to unfold? With every stolen glance, the tension grew. Faces twisted in confusion, while others craned their necks to hear every word exchanged. The whispers of unease amplified, but Mary held her head high. She was ready to say "I do," despite the storm brewing around them. It was almost surreal, a wedding filled with dread and laughter interwoven like a bad sitcom. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. As tension turned electric, someone in the back shouted, "He's hiding something." At that moment, all eyes shot back to James, who flinched. He tried to smile, but the tremor in his hand betrayed him. Just then, a shadow passed over Mary's face. Something undeniable shifted in the air. The sound of a throat clearing echoed, louder than a trumpet. The newcomer, a figure stepping into the light, face obscured, was someone none of them expected to see. The crowd gasped collectively. Who was this person? What did they know? The tension was thick now, wrapped tightly around everyone's hearts. They could feel the gravity of the moment seep into their bones like ice water. Mary stood frozen, eyes wide, as if she sensed the truth slipping closer, lurking on the edge of revelation. What had James hidden in that labyrinth of his past? And would it be enough to tear them apart before they even began? The figure stepped into the light, revealing a familiar face, but with a darker past than any of them knew. It was Tina, Mary's old friend from the neighborhood, who had vanished after a series of questionable choices. The crowd whispered as they recognized her, but more than shock set in, it was an electric anticipation. Why was she here? Mary's heart raced. Tina? She barely managed to breathe out, the joy of the day slipping away like a mirage. The atmosphere shifted, turning from celebration to a boiling cauldron of uncertainty. Yes, Mary, Tina said, her voice steady yet laced with a weight that pressed down on everyone in attendance. I came because you deserve to know the truth about James. Gasps erupted in the crowd. They leaned in closer as if pulled by gravity. The laughter that once filled the hall was replaced by a deafening silence, thick enough to cut with a knife. James shifted uneasily, the charm he wore now a mask slipping dangerously. What do you mean? Mary shot back, her voice wavering. The determination in her eyes was met with a spark of fear. Was this the moment everything unraveled? I love him. What truth could you possibly have about our love? I know what you think you feel, Tina replied, locking eyes with Mary. But James isn't who you think he is. There's a reason he's on the streets, a past he's been running from. James clenched his fists, struggling to maintain his composure. Sweat dripped down his forehead, each drop echoing the tension in the room. The guests leaned in closer, desperate to catch every word. Tina, stop. James barked, his voice cracking under the pressure. What was he hiding that made him tremble, that made the very foundations of this wedding waver? Mary looked between them, confusion and anguish washing over her features. Her world began to tilt. Was the man she loved a stranger after all? What are you talking about? She stepped closer, desperate for answers. James was involved with something illegal. Something that left people broken. He lost everything, and that's why he ended up homeless. He's been running from those he wronged, Tina said, her voice low but firm. You deserve more, Mary. The guests erupted into a symphony of gasps and whispers. The room felt smaller, as if the walls themselves conspired to close in on them. Mary felt her breath hitch, the weight of the crowd's judgment loomed over them like a shroud. No! She yelled, clenching her fists involuntarily. You don't know him. He's kind and gentle. But even as she said it, cracks appeared in her confidence. What if Tina was right? What if there was something sinister lurking beneath the surface? James took a step forward, desperation twisting his features. Mary, listen. But the noise from the crowd drowned him out. What else does he hide? How could she marry him? Did they really think this was a joke? The laughter from earlier felt like a distant memory, replaced by something far more sinister. Each whispered accusation felt like knives in Mary's heart. What was she supposed to believe? Please, Tina, James implored, his eyes reflecting a pain that cut deep. I've changed. I'm not the same. But you can't erase your past. Tina retorted. You can't marry her without telling her. The tension reached a boiling point, the uncertain crowd feeling as if they were seconds away from erupting. Mary felt a lump form in her throat. She searched James's eyes, trying to find the man she loved, but all she could see were shadows. A small voice from the back spoke up, maybe she should hear what happened. Maybe it's time for the truth. The room fell silent, the weight of the finality hanging in the air. This was not just about a wedding anymore, it was about grappling with secrets that threatened to drown everyone involved. Mary, please, James's voice broke. I didn't want you to find out this way. As the crowd leaned forward, anticipating a confession, Mary felt the ground shift under her feet. What was the truth that James had been hiding? And would it destroy everything they had just built? Mary's heart pounded a wild rhythm in her chest, each beat echoing uncertainty. The air around them was thick and heavy, a storm brewing beneath an azure sky. Every eye in the room was fixed on her and James, the crowd teetering toward chaos. Murmurs grew tense, charged with disbelief and speculation, the soft whispers a tapestry of judgment woven tight. James, Mary breathed, her voice nearly lost in the rising clamor. She could barely choke out his name, a mixture of fear and sorrow twisting her insides. He was a man she thought she knew, but with every word Tina spoke, that familiarity dissolved. James's face drained of color, a portrait of despair as he stepped closer, his eyes pleading. I swear, Mary, I'll explain everything. Just let me know. Tina's interruption snapped through the air like a whip. If he truly wants to be with you, he needs to lay it all bare. No more lies. The room buzzed like a live wire, tension snapping like a rubber band ready to break. One guest, a woman with a reputation for gossip, leaned closer, whispering loudly enough for all to hear, how can anyone marry someone with a dark past like that? Mary couldn't take it anymore. She felt the weight of everyone's opinions crushing her spirit. Was her love really as light as it seemed, or was it just a game of smoke and mirrors? She turned to James, her heartache morphing into rage. "Tell me, damn it. What is it? What are you hiding?" His mouth opened, hesitated. Then, a moment of silence held the crowd captive. Mary stood there, her hands trembling, the trembling growing until her whole body shook. The air was electric, holding its breath. Just when it seemed James would finally speak, he faltered. "Mary, please," he murmured, his voice cracking. "Stop begging," she shouted, tears welling up in her eyes. "I deserve to know the truth. Is it true, James?" As the silence echoed between them, the past came rushing back, and Mary's mind whirred with questions. What had Tina meant by broken? Had James really torn lives apart? Each thought struck her like a battering ram, echoing through the hollow chambers of her mind. Suddenly, the room spiraled out of control. Voices clashed like swords, accusations flying like arrows. How could she be marrying him with a past like that? What was she thinking? Tina took a deep breath, eyes locked onto James with a fierce intensity. "You can't run from this anymore. Not from who you really are, James." With that, the dam broke. Mary finally opened the floodgates of her heart and laid bare her fears. "Was everything we built just a lie? Were you just playing me?" The crowd leaned in, gravity pulling them forward as if they were part of this tragic drama unfolding in real time. "No. Never." His denial was immediate, laced with a desperation that almost seemed real. But something flickered in his eyes, a shadow, an echo. Mary didn't know if that shadow was guilt or something darker. She took a shaky step back, feeling the distance grow between them, a chasm filled with doubt. "Maybe I'm the fool," she whispered, half to herself. Suddenly, Tina's voice broke through again. "Mary, the truth is messy, but don't let him convince you it's okay. His denials can only shield so much." For the first time, the gravity of her own choices hit her. She fought back tears, her pulse racing. What would it mean for her if she walked away? And what if she stayed? Quiet descended momentarily, tension thrumming like a live wire. Then, without warning, a man burst through the doors, wild-eyed and frantic. The crowd gasped, all eyes trained on this newcomer with a face full of familiarity and an expression filled with urgency. "You need to hear this. It's about James. You don't know the whole story." Mary's heart sank. What more could there possibly be? As anticipation coiled around them like a snake preparing to strike, she stood at the brink of a truth that could unravel everything she thought she knew. "Tell me," she demanded, her voice shaking. "What is it about James? What have you got to say?" And just like that, the pieces began to fall into place, dark and ominous, filling her with a sense of dread she could neither ignore nor escape. The room froze, a snapshot of tense anticipation as the newcomer stood there, breathless and fervent. His eyes darted around, locking onto faces that felt like a gallery of judgment. Mary could feel every heartbeat hers, the crowd's pulsing in an eerie, shared anxiety. "Who are you?" James demanded, taking an instinctive step to shield Mary. The defensiveness in his tone was as thick as the tension surrounding them. "Tom," the man replied, shaking his head in frantic desperation. "I've been trying to reach you. James tried to warn you." His voice wavered, tinged with an urgency that felt oddly infectious. "You need to stop hiding. You need to tell her everything about the night that changed everything." Mary felt her stomach lurch. What night? A full spectrum of chaos erupted in her mind, an avalanche of dread cascading over thoughts of love and trust. "What are you talking about?" she snapped, losing patience. "What happened? Just spill it." A chaotic murmur broke out in the crowd, a cacophony of whispers and gasps swirling like a storm. Tom's gaze faltered under the weight of so many eyes, but he pressed on, spurred by a fervent need to unearth the buried truth. The accident with Lily. You don't know, Mary. You don't know who he really is. James's face turned ashen, his eyes widening in horror. No. Not here. Tom, please, why shouldn't she know? Tom argued back, his voice rising, fueled by the gravity of the information he held. The truth matters. You can't just let your past haunt you, James. You can't lie your way into a future with her. Mary's confusion spiraled into panic. Lily? What past was James hiding? Whispers of treachery and deceit woven through her thoughts began to suffocate her like a noose tightening. Each second eked out like an eternity, the tension coiling around her like thick, dark vines. Stop! Mary shrieked, desperate for control amid the brewing storm. She could hardly breathe. Just tell me the truth. James darted his gaze back toward her, eyes thick with despair, as though he were drowning in a sea of guilt, but he remained mute. Tom swallowed hard, his expression shifting to something close to sympathy. James was in a car accident. He hesitated, straining to find the right words. A little girl was involved. She didn't survive. Gasps erupted around her, and Mary felt the ground tremor beneath her feet. Every face morphed into a portrait of shock and disbelief, as if sanity was suddenly pulled from the room. No, that can't be true, she whispered, her voice quaking. James would never hurt anyone, would he? But as the whispers crescendoed, she could feel something inside her crack like a fragile porcelain doll hit by an unseen force. The jagged edges of doubt sliced through her heart, blood pooling in the wounds of betrayal and confusion. Mary, I didn't. James tried to reach out, but she jerked away. The crowd faded into a sudden blur, their shocked expressions mingling with the chaos in her thoughts. You knew. Mary, please. His pleas fell flat against the walls she was erecting around her heart. You made me believe. I thought I knew you. You didn't tell me about this. Why didn't you tell me? She could see raw fear in his eyes, but whether it was fear of losing her or fear of his own past, she couldn't tell anymore. Because I thought it would ruin everything, he choked out, the weight of his admission hanging suspended in the air. Mary staggered backward, feeling as though she was teetering on the edge of a cliff. What was love built on lies? What if her heart had led her straight into a trap? Tom's voice cut through her turmoil. You deserve to know, Mary. He's put on a facade so convincing, but you need to see what's waiting on the other side. The pieces of James's dark history came crashing down like thunder in a torrential storm. Would revealing the worst be the answer? Or would it shatter everything she believed in? As uncertainty pulsed through her veins, she faced the reality of her choices. Love could be beautiful, but it could also be terrifying. Decide, Mary. This is the moment. Tom's voice lingered, a weighty challenge hanging in the air. Do you want to hear the whole story? The tension thickened anew, and Mary's breath caught in her throat. A decision loomed before her, and it would change everything. Will you tell me? She whispered, feeling the ground shift beneath her, teetering on the edge of an abyss of possibilities. The silence in the room felt like a close-knit blanket smothering Mary and James. Every eye was on them, the whispers fading into a hushed anticipation, as if the very walls were holding their breath. Mary's heart thundered in her chest, drowning out the chaos around her, amplifying the weight of what Tom had just revealed. Mary. James took a faltering step forward, hands outstretched in a plea for understanding. Please, let me explain. Explain? She shot back, her voice trembling with hurt. How do you even begin to explain something like that? A little girl died, James. How could you keep this from me? The crowd pulsed in and out of focus, their faces blurring as Mary fought to suppress the swell of emotion threatening to overtake her. It was all too much, the looks of pity, the whispers of judgment, and the gut-wrenching betrayal she felt from the man she thought she knew. Tom stepped closer, his presence anchored in fierce intensity. "Mary, you deserve the truth. You need to know what really happened that night." Suddenly, James interjected, desperation lacing his voice. "No. You don't have to hear this. Not now." "Why not?" Tom shot back, his frustration boiling over. "You've been living in this lie. It's time to end it." Mary's gaze darted between the two men, tumultuous emotions warring for control. The tension strung tight like a bow, ready to snap. "What happened, James?" she demanded, voice steadier now, though it trembled with urgency. "What really happened?" His brow furrowed as if he was battling ghosts from the past, the shadows of regret etched on his face. "It was an accident. We were out celebrating. I didn't realize how close we were to the intersection." Bile rose in her throat. "Celebrating? What do you mean?" "Celebrating what?" "Celebrating us," he murmured, eyes glistening with unshed tears. "I was distracted. Lily just ran out. I couldn't stop in time." The room felt like it was closing in, the air thick with despair. Mary's heart cracked wide open, spilling agony into the void where love once thrived. "You killed her." James recoiled as if struck. "No, I didn't mean to. I would give anything to take it back. That night." His voice broke. "It haunts me every single day." Tom's voice was firm and unwavering as he pressed further, guiding Mary. "You need to realize he's not the man you thought he was, Mary. This will affect every part of your life, and you can't live in the dark." For a moment, the world stopped. The crowd held its breath in a collective gasp, their shared judgment tinged with unspoken fear. Would Mary stay? Could she forgive? Tears streamed down her cheeks, each drop feeling like a fading piece of her heart. "You say you're sorry, but can you honestly look me in the eye and expect me to believe it? Mary, please, I need you to understand how much I regret it." His voice fell, fragile, pleading. "Understand what?" She spat back, each word a blade. "That you took a life? That you hid it from me?" The air crackled with tension as James stepped into her personal space, raw emotions spilling visibly on his face. "I was going to tell you. I thought you might leave me. I can't lose you." But it was Tom who spoke next, the unwavering truth of his words cutting through the thick fog. "And yet, by not telling her, you have lost her already." Mary could feel the ground change beneath her as the reality of his words resonated deep within her soul. The gravity of her decision clawed at her chest. Crippling uncertainty forged chains around her heart. She was caught between the monstrous past and the undercurrents of affection she still felt toward him. "Tell me," she whispered, shaking, her voice scarcely audible, "about Lily. I need to know her story." With that simple request, the silence enveloped them once more. What else was James hiding? And could she survive the answer? The room turned electric, holding its breath anew, waiting for the truth to unfold, waiting for the storm to break. James hesitated, the weight of Mary's gaze pinning him in place. The crowd felt like a living entity, each breath they silently took merging with the rising tension between them. "Lily," he started, voice cracking under the pressure. She was beautiful, full of life. She had this laugh that could light up a room. I was her favorite uncle, you know. We'd play in the park, take long walks. She loved the swings. Her joy was contagious. Mary felt a swell of nausea as she swallowed the images forming in her mind. "So you were close? Closer than I even realized until..." His words trailed off, leaving behind an echoing silence that gnawed at her. "Until what?" She pressed, stepping even closer, willing him to find the strength within to continue. James took a deep breath, his hands trembling slightly. He looked down, as if searching for something rooted in the earth beneath them. "I was too focused on us. On how happy I was. I thought I could balance everything: my excitement, my love for you, and my obligations to her. That night I let my guard down and I didn't see. Mary's heart raced. Didn't see what? His eyes finally met hers, a storm of regret swirling within. The car. The sound of her footsteps. It was like the world was moving in slow motion, and I couldn't pull myself out of it. Gasps rippled through the crowd, head-shaking disapproval hanging in the air like fog. Mary's knees felt weak, the floor beneath her threatening to give way. Tom's brows drew together, fierce determination surging through him. You need to tell her everything. Don't hold back. She deserves the truth without filters. No, James pleaded, desperation igniting in his voice. There's more, so much more. But if I tell her, Mary's stomach twisted. What's more horrifying than this? He shook his head, unable to reply. Tears streamed down his cheeks, and for a moment, she believed he might drop to his knees, but he remained standing, battling demons unseen. I didn't just injure her, he finally confessed, clenching his fists at his sides. She died in my arms. A heavy presence gathered in the room, silencing even the most judgmental whispers. Mary felt her breath catch, a vice tightening around her chest. What do you mean your arms? Were you there? He took a shaky breath. You have to understand, I was terrified. I panicked. I thought I could fix this. I thought if I just kept her talking, kept her awake, she wouldn't know. Mary cried out, raw emotion flooding her voice. You thought she would just be okay after what happened? James' body sagged, and he whispered, I didn't know. I didn't want to believe it could happen to her, to us, so I hid everything. I thought maybe if I buried it deep, we could still find a way to be alright. Mary felt the world shift around her. The weight of the revelation poured over her, and it was suffocating. For a fleeting heartbeat, she considered grabbing James, tearing away the silence between them, finding solace in a love that now felt unbearable. Then Tom's voice cut through again. Mary, don't let his guilt tie you to his grave mistake. You are not responsible for his actions. The room vibrated with the energy of impending emotions, a thick atmosphere pregnant with tension. Mary, please, James begged, the panic mounting. I didn't want to hurt you. I didn't want this. Trembling, she took a step back and surveyed the crowd, a court of spectators weighing her every decision, their expressions ranging from horror to pity. You didn't want this? You thought you would just get away with keeping her memory buried? James' face fell, regret like a heavy anchor pulling him into the depths. I thought if you didn't know, it wouldn't change us, it wouldn't change anything. But as Mary stared into his pleading eyes, she knew the truth, they could never go back. The fracture in their world had already widened, gaping and raw. With a sudden, visceral instinct, she exclaimed, What did you do with her? After? Tell me everything. The silence was deafening, the crowd leaning in like a wave ready to crash. Would James reveal what remained? Hidden in the shadows? What lay beneath the surface of the tragedy that had torn them apart? The moment was poised on a knife's edge, breath caught in anticipation, waiting for the storm's next break. James' eyes widened, a shadow of panic washing over his face. The crowd held its collective breath, every pair of eyes fixated on him. In that moment, Mary felt like she was teetering at the edge of a deep abyss, barely clinging to hope. If he didn't reveal everything now, would he ever? I didn't he seemed to falter, battling with the weight of his confession. His voice dropped to a whisper. I didn't take her to the hospital. I thought I could keep her alive long enough for what? Mary shot back, her voice trembling with a mix of fury and desperation. To fix everything. He shouted, his voice echoing in the tension-laden air. The crowd recoiled slightly, caught off guard by his sudden outburst. I thought I could save her if I held her close, told her stories, made her laugh. Maybe that would keep the dark away. Gasps surged through the crowd again, shock morphing into disbelief. Mary felt sweat drip down the back of her neck as realization began to sink in. The sum of his decisions wasn't just reckless, it was haunting. James had choked the life out of his own niece by chasing a fantasy of control. And then what? She demanded, eyes narrowing in on him. What happened next? His jaw tightened, visibly swallowing a lump of remorse. I watched her go. I was screaming for help, but it was too late. She just stopped. There was nothing left, and I was too afraid to admit what I let happen. Mary's heart thudded, barreling against her ribcage as his words hung in the air, wrapped in desperation and denial. A sickening fear tumbled in her stomach. The faces around her contorted in shock, some looked ready to bolt, others kept staring, eyes glazed in horror. "Do you understand what you've done?" Tom interjected, his voice steady but cutting. "You killed her by your silence and arrogance. You think this confession gives you absolution?" "No!" James shrieked, collapsing to the ground, hands buried in his hair. "I didn't mean to. I would traded everything to change it. To turn back time. I wish I had." Her heart ached, tangled in an unholy mix of rage, grief, and a surprising thread of compassion. She wanted to scream back that there was no trading time, no second chances to set things right. But she could see the shattered pieces of James that mirrored her own confusion. His regret was almost palpable, but something flickered in the depths of Mary's mind. "What did you do with her afterwards?" She pressed, her voice barely above a whisper now, shaky with unresolved anger. James gasped and looked at her as if she had slapped him. I panicked," he repeated. "I thought if I just took her home, no one would know." "Home? You took her home?" Mary echoed, the weight of his words crashing into her like waves. "Are you telling me you brought her back to your house? And left her there?" He nodded, tears flowing like a river down his cheeks. "I hid her. I thought I could. I thought I could keep it all hidden." A chill swept through the crowd, sitting thick in the air as shocked expressions shifted into a collective silent accusation. Mary felt icy fear creep up her spine. "James, you can't be serious. This is madness." Someone shouted from the back. "You turned your home into a grave. Stop." Mary screamed, desperately trying to rein in the disaster unfolding around them. All eyes were locked onto James, their resentment laying bare like an open wound. But there was something else lurking beneath the surface. Could it be that he wasn't just afraid of the truth getting out? A thought flickered through her mind, dark and twisted. What if there was a part of him that sought to bury more than just Lily's body? "What else?" she asked, voice trembling but fierce. "What else did you do?" James looked up at her, eyes wide, caught between his demons and whatever was left of their shattered reality. I didn't just bury it," he began, the horror rising to meet his confession once more. Mary's heart raced, anticipation filling the air like electricity. What truth loomed just beyond that precipice? A confession so dark it could silence them all? The crowd leaned closer, tension mounting, waiting for him to drop the final bombshell that could blow their world wide open. "I didn't just bury it. I did something worse," James stammered, eyes wild and glazed as he stared into the void. The collective gasp from the crowd tightened the atmosphere, suspense soaking into every corner of their gathering. Mary felt the weight of horror settle over her like a heavy fog. "What do you mean?" she pressed, her voice barely breaking through the silence, caught between dread and curiosity. "What's worse than that?" James trembled, leaning forward as if the weight of his truth might crush him. "I tried to bring her back," he whispered, voice frail and trembling. A murmur cascaded through the sea of people, uncertainty and disbelief flickering in their eyes. "Bring her back? How?" Mary grabbed his shirt, anchoring her panic. Did you perform some kind of sick ritual?" He shook his head frantically, beads of sweat glistening against his pale skin. "No. It wasn't that. I found an old book, rituals, old superstitions. I started dabbling in things I didn't understand, hoping, praying, believing that if I did it right, I could bring her back. I thought. Maybe. His voice trailed off, the room thickening, the air oppressive. People shifted, hands covering mouths, eyes wide, the energy in the space taut as a drawn bowstring. The gravity of what he was suggesting sunk slowly into Mary's bones, heavy and unwelcome. You thought you could bring her back from the dead? Mary echoed, horror saturating her words. After everything you did to her? James nodded, tears spilling down his cheeks. I couldn't just let her go. I couldn't. I also wanted her to forgive me. To somehow give me a chance to show her I cared. I tried everything, but the darkness just kept creeping in. I felt her slipping away every single moment. As he spoke, Mary's heart stuttered, she trembled with the weight of his words. The room felt too small, too stifling, each person at the edge of a collective breakdown. What were they hearing? A twisted confession or the ravings of someone consumed by guilt? One young woman at the back gasped suddenly, the sound puncturing the silence. Did you use her body to do this? The question hung in the air like a death knell. A realization swept over the crowd, all eyes shifting as they reeled from that notion. No! James cried, shaking his head vehemently, desperation twisting his features. I swear. I wouldn't. I couldn't. I tried to keep her. I wanted to keep her safe. I swear. It was just what? Mary's voice raised, lashing out but softening against the backdrop of his fear. What was it? You didn't want anyone to know you were twisted enough to. I kept her room pristine. He blurted, hanging his head in shame, voice cracking under the weight of confession. I acted as if she was just sleeping. I made her favorite meals, kept everything the way she liked, in the hopes that one day she would wake back up. I convinced myself it wasn't too late. An uneasy shiver passed through the crowd, shared glances cast among faces marked by horror and disbelief. Mary felt her own stomach twist, nodding around a dawning understanding. James, you're sick, she whispered, fear brimming again, coiling tightly within her. This isn't normal. But I didn't mean to hurt her. He cried, sobs bubbling up. I just wanted her back. Silence fell again, the kind that echoes painfully, punctuated only by muffled sobs from the crowd. People shuffled uneasily, a palpable sense of fear unraveling this gathering of anguish. What are you going to do now? A voice called out from the depths of the crowd, faltering but brave in the face of the gathering storm. James straightened up, the broken pieces of him suddenly fierce and desperate, his gaze hardening as if a switch had been flipped. You all don't understand. I have to finish what I started. I have to fix this. The crowd recoiled, gasping collectively at the revelation as a chilling realization washed over Mary. They were caught in a twisted web spun from desperation, and James was about to figure out how to tie the last knot. As he took a step back, their eyes locked in a haunting reflection of ruin. Mary realized the scavenger hunt for truth was just beginning, the darkness lurking still deeper than any of them could grasp. What else had he unleashed in that room? What were the consequences waiting just beyond the veil of shadows? With a shiver of dread, she thought, what if he wasn't finished yet? The air in the room thickened, a pungent mix of fear and confusion wrapping around the crowd like a damp blanket. Mary's heart raced as James's expression morphed, determination darkening the glint of desperation in his eyes. What do you mean fix this? She pressed, dread pulling at her insides. What else are you planning to do? His lips curled into a grim smile that sent chills rushing down Mary's spine. I need to complete the ritual. It's not finished yet. I know how to tap into the right energy, how to break the barriers. He sounded almost eager. No, James. You can't. You're playing with forces you don't understand. Mary felt a surge of panic flood her chest, urging her to act, but her feet felt frozen to the floor. The crowd shifted uneasily, whispers buzzing like angry bees, each person torn between the urge to flee and the morbid curiosity that pinned them in place. What barriers? What kind of energy? A voice called from the edge of the assembly, raw fear distorting the question. James turned sharply. You don't need to worry about that. It's not for you to understand. His voice echoed, heartless and cold, causing another wave of gasps to ripple through the group. You all just want to judge, but that's not fair. None of you have felt what I've felt. Mary took a step closer, heart pounding wildly. James, think about what you're saying. You can't force something like this. The desperation in her voice was palpable, threading through the words like a lifeline. His eyes flared, a fleeting glimpse of the man she once knew fading in the shadows of obsession. What if I told you her spirit is still there? I can feel it. She's waiting for me. Immediate gasps punctuated the silence, voices cracking under the weight of disbelief. A gnawing sense of danger coiled around Mary's spine. What had she stumbled into? Waiting? James, she's gone. A resolute voice chimed in. It was the voice of a man from the back, an old friend of James's. You have to let her go. This isn't right. We all need to let her rest. Another shouted, but James's expression hardened, transforming the room into a pressure cooker on the verge of exploding. Do you think it's just that easy? He barked, fury bubbling just beneath the surface. You don't know what it's like to lose someone like that, to have them slip through your fingers. Suddenly, a loud crash shattered the mounting tension as a chair toppled over. Everyone jumped, instinctually stepping back. Please, stop this. Mary cried, hands trembling, afraid that this moment could spiral beyond repair if James lost control. We're here for you, but this is a path to darkness. James's gaze flicked to her, an internal battle raging behind those scared eyes. But then, resolve washed over him like a tide, bringing clarity to the chaos. If you want to understand, then I'll have to show you. And with that, he turned, quickening his pace toward the shadowy corner of the room, where the candlelight barely flickered, the bookshelf lined with those old, dusty tomes hidden from sight. No, James! Mary screamed as he vanished into the shadows. Panic surged through the crowd, collective breaths holding tight in their throats. Moments passed like eternity, each tick of the clock echoing, a countdown to an unknown fate. Could he really be about to unleash something terrible? And then it hit her, the very book he had been reading. What if it had more power than he realized? Someone. We have to stop him. She yelled, throwing herself forward, but the others hesitated, fear rooting them to the spot, but Mary wouldn't stop. She followed him, terror and instinct driving her deeper into the darkness, searching for any flicker of light amid the encroaching despair. James! She called out, her voice shaky but determined. Please, just stop. In the gloom, all she heard was a soft, ominous whisper, a chant, low and haunting. What are you doing? She lunged into the shadows, her breath quickening. As she reached the doorway, she saw a shape, the outline of James, arms raised as he flicked through the pages. A sense of wrongness flooded her. Something was shifting. Something beyond comprehension. And then, a sound erupted, a crackle of energy, a strange vibration that reverberated through the air. James! Mary cried, fear clawing at her insides. But his voice rose higher, blending with a chorus of the damned. What have you done? Light burst forth, illuminating the room in shades of terror, and Mary felt her heart drop. Could it be too late? What had James awakened? What was waiting on the other side? The darkness unfolded like a flower, and Mary could only hope it wouldn't swallow her whole. The room exploded in chaos. James was lost among the shadows, a specter twisting in the dim light, poring over pages decorated with forbidden symbols. People shouted in panic, shuffling back, eyes wide with fear. Mary, heart racing, charged forward, unable to let go. James! Enough! She yelled, her voice breaking through the chaos. Then it happened. The air changed. It thickened, charged with an ancient energy that crackled and sparked, whispering dark invitations. And in that moment of vulnerability, with the world spinning out of control, something flickered across James's eyes. Was it desperation? Or was it something darker? Once the cycle of life is broken, it can be mended, he chanted, his voice steady and possessed. Lily, I will bring you back. Mary's chest tightened. No! She shouted, a raw panic flooding her. James, this isn't a game. You can't. But he barely heard her, caught in his own tempest, entranced by the ancient words spilling from his lips. The shadows around him pulsed, dark waves oscillating like a heartbeat, and just like that, the delicate barrier between worlds began to thin. She could feel it, a weight pressing down on her soul, as though the air itself was warning her of the horrors unfolding. Everything you loved will never come back if you continue this. Tom stepped in, holding out a hand toward James, eyes wide with fear. Don't do this at 1T work. She's gone. Let her rest in peace. In that moment, James faltered. The flicker of light in his eyes dimmed, confusion creeping into the edges of his mind. For the first time, he turned, meeting Mary's desperate gaze. Mary, the first thought, perhaps you know it's too late, James. She pleaded, tears streaming down her cheeks. You're losing yourself. This isn't the way. You can't bring her back. And those words pierced through the storm like a beacon. Slowly, as if awakening from a trance, he faltered and looked down at the book, then at Mary. His breath shuddered, no longer a man of twisted resolve but a broken soul, lost in the dark depths of his own making. Whatever darkness this book holds doesn't hold power over your heart, she urged. Choose love over despair, choose life over death. James dropped the tome, and with a shattering crash, the candlelight flickered and sputtered, shadows curling back as if defeated. The energy that had once vibrated ominously faded, leaving only an echo of longing and regret in its wake. A murmur spread through the crowd, disbelief competing with fragile hope. Mary stepped closer, the last vestiges of fear eclipsed by determination. Will you choose to love your memories, to live in them instead of trying to change the past? His shoulders sagged, the fight leaving him. I'm so sorry. And it unraveled him. The dam broke, tears flowed freely, each sob a release of guilt bubble-wrapped tightly for far too long. He wept openly, shaking as the gravity of loss crashed over him like a tidal wave. Mary stepped forward, arms wrapping around him as his anguish spilled into her like ink. By allowing herself to forgive him, perhaps they could both begin anew. The crowd stood still, uncertain, a mixture of pity and awe resonating through the hall. They witnessed a love unraveling to forge new beginnings, raw yet beautiful in its imperfection. As the weight of what transpired began to settle, Mary felt a shift. It wasn't over, but they could walk through this new dawn together, untethering themselves from their shared darkness. Hand in hand, they turned to the crowd, a bond forged in truth standing against the whispers of judgment. Love doesn't erase the past, she began, voice steady despite the lingering tremor. But it can guide us through its shadows. We'll carry her memory, not in regret, but in love. Nods of reluctant understanding blossomed among the guests, and Mary's heart fluttered with a dim spark of hope. They had much to face, but for now, they faced it united, slowly beginning to let go of the shackles of their individual pains. As Mary and James reclaimed their place in the room, a surge of sympathy filled the air, healing threads weaving between the darkness left behind and the light they sought to create. They were broken, but through vulnerability, they found strength. And that's how they would honor Lily, by living fully, embracing the love they still had, and just like that, the laughter returned. It was tentative, hesitant, but it rang clearer than any sinister echo that had broken their day apart. They were stepping into a world bursting with possibilities, one where understanding shaped their boundaries. Mary's eyes glimmered with a new resolve, and as she squeezed James's hand, she realized it was not just the end, it was the beginning. So, if you've been captivated by this story, you need to subscribe now. Hit that red button to follow all our exclusive tales. Smash that like button to show your support, too. And don't forget to flood the comments with your thoughts. What did you think of the ending? Did you expect that twist? You have to share this with at least 5 friends who need to witness this conclusion. Don't wait, dive into the excitement. You won't want to miss what's coming next.